Welcome back to the Arctic Den. Today we are playing Dicentra, or Dicentia. Welcome back to the Arctic Den. Today we are playing Dicentra. It is a visual novel with horror aspects to it. It is a demo. Maybe we'll get to see what the full game looks like at some point. This game contains content with blood, death, violence, unhealthy relationships between characters, and horrific imagery that players may find uncomfortable or disturbing. Player discretion is advised. Please play responsibly and take care of yourself. Nah. Let's make a save. I really like the custom, whatever it's called. I drag myself through the rain. It blurs my vision, forcing me my way through the forest, wind crushing against me from all sides. Prayer is my only form of navigation, but I think the blood running through my veins prevents me from landing in God's grace. Now it's probably because you sin and don't repent. I fumble over the tangle of roots and slip over wet moss. My bones instantly shudder from the cold shock running through my nails as I grab onto a nearby rock. A pathetic whine escapes my throat. My grandmother would have a ball if she could see me now. I can hear her snide remark already. See what happens when you don't listen to me? As if I wouldn't survive long enough to hear the real deal. I sniffle in frustration and try to shake the feeling away from the rain, not Wayne, dripping down my face. She's always right, of course. For a moment, my defiance had given me everything I wanted. Lost in thought, lost control of my limbs. I'm not using them all at once, and it's close enough to throw me back into the slick earth. Now I really want to cry. A storm is harsh. A thick canopy of trees above me does little to shield me from its rage. They passively turn their leaves away instead, tempting me to scream my grandmother's harshest curses at them. Am I losing it? I shakily lift myself from the ground, snorting weakly into a puddle. For a middle of summer sure is pouring hard. The rain feels like shards of ice against my skin. I watch it distort the reflection of the puddles with ripples. In the brief moments where reflection almost settles, I see piercing yellow eyes. Dark fur. Ah, must be a demonic wolf or werewolf. And wilted ears, sleek and clinging to the small, vulnerable form of a wolf pup. The voice of my grandmother hisses in my mind. What have you done, Basil? I need to get back home. I tear away from the puddle and trek on. Please, something lead me back home. Something, anything. Maybe that's a risky thing to ask of this forest, though. Are we a wolf? Because our picture's now a wolf. It's so faint that I question if it's even real. A howl cuts through the wind. Fighting my way through the storm has exhausted my body. The frontal lobe of my brain begins to neglect its responsibility to remember what reason is. All my instincts scream to ignore it, but my heart, a stupidly curious thing, makes me take a step forward. My fuzzy ears pick up the sound of my heart pounding. I think we're a wolf. I need to focus on where the howling's coming from. As I get closer to the sound, it resembles crying. The storm has started to retract its claws. Was it the forest showing mercy? Or has it submitted to something more formidable? I've lived in the woods my whole life. I should know better than anyone never to get too comfortable. A red light perforates the dark atmosphere. I swallow harshly. Ah, it must be a blood moon. Time for that so-called rapture. Sorry, that was horrible. Maybe there's a vampire near here. From a distance, it would look abandoned, if not for the hazy red light coming from the rooftop. I squint. Is that a greenhouse? I think it's a red house. Because it's red, and not green. Did I imagine it? I release a nervous sigh and observe the ground for any signs of life, or death. It was a bad idea to come here. A terrible one, even. I can't stay here. I retreat back into the shadows of the forest. The moment I feel bold enough to turn my back against it, a powerful gale slams into me. I tumble back hard, skidding across the ground into the tall grass with a cry. It takes me a moment to recover from my swirling vision. I don't think we're able to leave. Oh no, no, no. I grit my teeth and get back on my feet, keeping my weight off my arm as I make for the forest again. Again, I'm denied entrance by the mysterious force. Panic starts to seep through my bones. I almost wish I could go back to feeling hopeless. I stare at the trees as they suddenly start playing nice, but beings as ancient as them don't bend to anyone's will but their own. The wind gives one more shove. It insists I move forward. I bare my adolescent fangs as it smothers the hurt. I know now that my choices were nothing but illusions. I face the mansion once again. It's clear that something, or someone from inside is inviting me in. With no other choice, I creep along the worn brick walls of the mansion and try to find a way in. Ah yes, a knock 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 came from the cellar door. I find a door to a cellar. It looks rotten. I go to the cellar door. I want to go inside. I go to a window. I go somewhere else. A faint knocking grabs my attention. I pad to the back of the mansion, and my saving grace comes in form of a door left slightly ajar. Aha! I nudge my nose into the tight gap. A relief watches over me when it parts. Then... creak. The feeling of ice floods my veins. I stay frozen in the doorway. If this mansion is inhabited, there's no way it didn't just announce my entrance. Fear takes back again. Wait. Fear takes over again. My pawn intuitively steps back so I can attempt to run as far away from this place as I can. Crack. The sound of thunder explodes behind me. The door slams on my way in. Can't leave now. Guess you're, what's it called? I don't know. You're a wolf. I can't think of any wolf puns. I can only think of cat puns. This is a perfect scenario. I see a kitchen table and crawl towards it, scratching my nails along the musty wood flooring in a rush to get beneath it. I stay under the table as my breathing starts returning to normal pace. When I'm confident there is no sign of life in the manor, I crawl back into the open. You're not alone. If you've any idea how horror games work, there's always something there. I notice a hearth that lacks any recent maintenance. Dishes crowd the counter. This place hasn't been occupied in a long time. By anything alive. As I stalk further in, I hold my breath at every corner, carefully looking in all directions for danger. The rest of the mansion is devoid of life as the kitchen. Most of the rooms here have closed doors. The ones I could have seen in were graciously empty, sans the derelict furnishings within. Barely anything in its decent shape. I couldn't guess how long it's been since a human lived in this manor. Yeah, because it's inhabited by demons. What else would you expect? One portrait in particular catches my eye. I stop in front of it. I don't think I've lost my mind yet. As I observe the side profile of a pale woman, I notice that she's eerily the most realistic painting I've seen so far. Yeah, let's make a save in case I have to run away. Her lovely features captured in oil begin to melt off as she steps out of the painting. Smooth ivory skin shrivels to a deathly pallor. The elaborate gown clinging to her sharp shoulders begins to rot as her torso parts open like a blooming rose, revealing decaying bone and organs that run down her skirt like horrific decor. I immediately start running away as far as I physically can. As I scramble to get away in my hurt leg, I hear something that might be worse than a ghost. The wood and spicy scent of incense fills the humid air, creating a purple hazy fog. Footsteps follow shortly after, growing louder alongside the clinking chains. It's coming from the staircase. I look behind me and see the glowing apparition of a woman, hunched form, stumbling towards me. Hide, I need to hide. But where? My eyes dart every inch of the hallway, desperately searching for a small sanctuary. All the doors are firmly shut. I press against a wall. I hear a faint tapping sound coming from behind me. I walk backwards away from the door, keeping my eyes on it. I'm so focused on the door I bump into something cold and almost trip over it. Oh. We tumble down a staircase. I don't dare to breathe or move. There you are. No way I was about to stick around and find out what fate awaits me. No, you should listen to the guy. He has a top hat. They can always be trusted. I'm not thinking anymore. I see the greenhouse I'd spotted earlier and sprint towards it as fast as I can. Thunder and lightning were above me. A bright flash of white light blinds me and I feel my claws scratch against the wet tiles. A door slams shut in the distance, causing a rippling effect in the walls and reaching the rooftop. The energy of the manor shifts completely. I shake the rain from my face. The whole world has fallen silent, except for the sound of a chilling drip. Basil. I freeze. I follow its trail all the way to the blood dripping on dirty tiles and pale feet beneath it. My eyes climb the mysterious figure. Lightning flashes brightly between the tall windows. Looming rose bushes creep along them. White roses speckled across its dark leaves like stars on a moonlight sky. The bright flowers begin to bleed red before my very eyes. Blood drips from tiny bite marks all over her hands. Drip, drip, drip. Aww. We look adorable. 'Cause we're a wolf. Instead of a strong floral scent, the smell of burning paper and wilting lilac floods my senses. Time resumes once again. The girl's turn, her gaze piercing through me. The bulb drops from her hand. She doesn't say a word. Black dots begin to appear in the corner of my vision. The last thing I saw was her walking towards me, before everything faded to black. My fetal is brutal throughout the night. I try to let my body go back to sleep, but strong hands force my jaw open and shove something down my throat. The intrusion makes me violently resist, but I'm far too weak to fend the intruder away. I wake up to the tang of rusty metal and humid air. The unfamiliar sensation makes my eyes snap open. Beyond the small cage that holds me, it's dark and damp. I clench my jaws as I examine my surroundings. I yelp and throw my body backwards, hitting the back of the cage. Huh. I guess she looks cute. I mean, since we're a dog. If I was a human, I'd run. Or I'd already be dead. One of the two. My claws scrape the cold floor as the cage as I spin. The bars behind me morph into slithering vipers in defensive stances, each one baring their fangs in anger. Careful. Their venom will make the blood in your body solidify in seconds. That wouldn't be a very pleasant way to die. I look at the ghost in horror. Are you sure it's a ghost and not just a pretty lady? How are we talking to her, though, if we're a wolf? The ghost is not a ghost, but a girl. Her hair looks like ink that's been violently locked over and spilled onto the floor. Her expression is blank. I see her hands tightly clutching her white gown. Do you bite? Do you, I want to ask? I reel my teeth through a snarl and watch as she shows hers with a small smile. The fur along my spine stands up. She reaches for me. It freezes right in front of my snout. Is she checking to see if I really will bite? Has she no fear? I may only be a pup, but the sheer force of my jaws can pierce through her palm. I repel from her hand. I pull my face away from her hand, and see her startle from my peripheral vision. She pulls her hand back and holds it against her collar. My eyes lock with her. She stares at me with her lips pressed together. It'll be hard to protect you if you're too scared a cat to do as I say. My eyes snap back to the girl. I watch as she stands up and wipes her hands on her dress. If you want to survive, I'll have to listen to my instructions. Okay, doggy? Oh. Okay. 'Cause apparently I'm a dog now. She tilts her head back like she expects me to respond. Don't be too brave. If you're smart, you'll stay careful. The others had too much fight in them. It made them foolish. She gives me another haunting smile. When your arm is better, I'll take you for a walk before he gets back. Is this what she sounds like when she's excited? It's unsettling. The scent of burning parchment and wilting lilacs return. My name is Dove. Horrible to meet you, Dove. Huh. I spent the night nursing the dregs of my fever. When I'd first woken up, I didn't notice how much of it had already been soothed. I can't speak. But now, vague memories of violating hand surface in my thoughts. Did she give me some kind of medicine? My body still feels uncomfortably warm. I rested my head on one arm and glanced at the one that had been hurt earlier. Was this Dove's handiwork? I sigh softly through my nose and close my eyes. Time passes ambiguously through the cage. A bowl of water sits in the corner of the cage. I know from the dryness of my throat that I need to hydrate, but I've yet to muster up the courage to approach the bars that slither and rattle every so often. Feeling better now, I curl into a ball and my tail cradles my face. I want to go home. I fall asleep on rusty metal and wake up on dusty wood. My eyes snap open and my retinas are immediately burned by the color that floods into them. Huh. On the floor in front of me is a kaleidoscope of lights created by the morning sun. A stark contrast to the dark and dreary setting I was previously confined to. Maybe I dreamed it all in a feverish haze. I check on the gauze around my arm. It's still there. A weight around my neck brings me back into focus. A collar is secured around my throat. Attached to it is a long, heavy chain that leads to a leg of a large wardrobe in the corner of the room. The bedroom. I take into my latest cage. There are no longer venomous bars to keep, but the state of confinement has not changed. Yet, you shouldn't have went to this house. Look at the monsters and find swirling murals and expressive paintings of various creatures and the monsters. Past the frame of the window, the drawings continue in a nonsensical scrawl. Less art decorates the walls, but the shelves with cracked plant pots and hanging tangles of ivory take their place. Dirty cups and bowls sit forgotten in a dark corner. Neat. Judging from the surprising lack of grime from one of them, it hasn't been long since they were used. Dusty books and crumbled parchment litters the floorboards. Taking up half of the room is a canopied bed. What's a canopy bed? I have no idea. The sound of scratching captures my attention. That doesn't sound like scratching. That sounds like, writing with a pen. I can hear her whispering to herself. No, that won't work. Dove makes no move to acknowledge my presence, so I continued approaching her. When I'm closer to her back, I'm able to get a better look at what she's writing. Scribbles of occult symbols make the words on the pages completely illegible. I swallow a lump in my throat. The collar around my neck feels very heavy right now. Rip. Dove suddenly tears the page out from the book. The jarring sound makes me jump. Look at Dove. She's now staring at me with wide eyes. You're awake. I release a small yelp and stare at her dumbfounded. She's brighter. Or maybe it's the luminous light filtering through the bedroom window. The feeling instantly vanishes when she gets up and rushes towards me. Look behind to see the chain of my collar is pulled taut. It reached its limit. And see Dove standing over the spot I had bolted from. I mean, just be a good dog. Maybe you won't die. She then perks up, snapping the tension away. Oh, you're probably starving. The others were also very skittish when they had empty bellies. She starts weaving through the mess of piled books to reach the bedroom door. Wait here. I don't have much of a choice. Dove returns with a bread roll and bowl. She sets the bowl down a couple feet in front of me and retreats back to chew on her own food. I attentively approach it. Bread. I lick my lips on instinct. Must have been ages since I last left. Because I watch her chunks from it and mark every little crumb falling onto her white dress while yearning. The sight of red fleshy chunks greets me. Raw meat. She gave me a bowl of raw meat. I can't eat this. Well, maybe I could. But the idea of it causes nausea. I stare at the fresh blood pooling at the bottom of the bowl. and I glance over at the bread. Then back down to the ball, feeling confounded. I can't do it. Are you gonna let it go to waste? Dov's voice comes right above me and fear slaughters on my stomach. She kneels in front of the bowl and dips her hand into it. She brings the raw meat to her mouth. Watch her eat it. Bile rises in my throat as I watch her chew through the raw flesh. She covers her back with the mouth of her hand and gags and looks at me. What a horrible taste. A thin stream of blood falls from the corner of her mouth. I suppose you'd like something a little more appetizing. She gags again, then runs out of the room. I hear the sound of her retching from the other room. Dove returns with a new bowl of what looks like stew. I inspect it thoroughly, checking for insects or something inedible. The stew is so bland. It makes me yearn for my grandmother's cooking so badly. So, you're a dog, or a wolf, and your grandparents cook for you? Are they not also wolves? Like all it'll take is a single blink for me to disappear, if only I could. I look back to see my tail wagging at the floor. I immediately cease this movement, but not before Dove takes notice. Looks like your energy has returned. Does it still hurt? I stare at Dove, then hesitantly put my weight on my wrapped up arm. The sharp pain is mostly gone, but a dull ache remains. I make a frustrated whine. Dove tilts her head at me, considering my reply. I hold my breath as she comes close, her hands covering up near the collar on my neck. Hope dares to grow inside my racing heart. Will you hurt me if I take it off? I shake my head slightly. Dove gives a curious look. Her hand hovers for a short moment, then she nods. Then I bolt. My swift escape shoves Dove aside. Dove makes a panicked noise. Then I'm back in the hallway where the horrors began. Can't we just be a nice dog? I need to go back to the kitchen. I don't remember seeing this many doors. Then to another. Then another. My exploration of the man was cut short when I first arrived. These are not the same halls I walked through. Large hair protrudes from its head, running to the floor stiffly like a straw, then hiding most of its thin long limbs. Another ghost. I've never seen this one before. I see another ghost heading straight for me. I up and crush myself against the wall. The ghost staggers towards me with bony knees knocking together. Ugh. The closer it gets, the better I'm able to make out its leathery skin. The beady bloodshot eyes that dample across his face above the rotting beak. You need to run, doggo. Two ghosts follow one death another like a bird-like ghost. One is a cluster of what looks like fungi and twisting fabric. Another creates a sound of glass crunching together with every step it takes. I can still make out the raggedy maid uniform. Maybe you should have just stayed with the girl. Normally when a ghost is corrupted from being trapped in the land of the living, every semblance of their humanity is lost. So why do these ghosts talk to so much purpose? Then so painfully easy. I've been led back to the kitchen. I see Dove standing on the kitchen table. Another bulb is held loosely in her other hand. It took me 40 years to develop this kind of filament. I watch them reach for her and open my jars to bark out a warning. Dove doesn't notice them and continues to screw in the bulb. I heard these bulbs can stay lit for 1,200 hours. And yet after less than a week, their legacy of lighting dark has been snubbed out forever. Something so wonderful only breaks in a place like this. The ghosts have vanished. Dove gives no hint of awareness for the presence that just left them. Could she not see them? I look at the door and I had used into the mansion. She sighs wearily. How long will this cycle continue for? There's no door. My claws tear through the wood, but I continue scratching. The outline of a door does not reveal itself. It's not there anymore. She stares up at the wall I had torn up and gives me a blank expression. She frowns and her eyes turn downcast with guilt. I don't know how to get it back. I look past Dove and see the window. I perk up. The window, we can break it. Maybe not me. Dove sits on the table looking bored. I take a deep breath. Bark. Dove jumps and her eyes swivel down to me. What? I point my nose at the window and it takes Dove a second to understand my gesture. The window? What about it? My tail wags behind me. I ignore it and look around for something to help her understand what I mean. I throw my body weight back until it falls over. Then I look at Dove and point my snout at the window again. She holds up, still wearing a befuddled expression. You want me to put it by the window? Throw it at the window? Yep. I nod again and wag my tail quickly. Dove looks at the window hesitantly. She stares at a reflection in the glass. I never tried breaking the windows before. When I feel her slightly resist, I look up and Dove's face appears paler than I thought possible. She raises the stool and my heart starts to quicken. The stool comes down, then stops. I follow her out to see it. A pale hand grips Dove's arm. Dove's reflection stares back with blackened eyes and a wide, distorted smile that leaks dark. I can see Dove's hand tremble. Bad girl, you should know better by now. Tiny wooden footsteps fill the silence. I hold my breath. The footsteps grow louder. I hear Dove hiccup and my eyes slide back to her in panic. The reflection crushes Dove's wrist. Black webs spread from where they touch. Behave, Dove. The reflection barks out a howling laugh, then shoves Dove away from the window. I yelp and throw myself under her to soften her fall. She crushes me with her weight and we fall into a messy heap on the floor. When we recover again, Dove stands on shaky legs. She holds her wrist and black veins now fade from the reflection that touched her. I let out a soft ooh. She got hurt because of me. I whimper and go back to scratch still more in desperation. I'm sorry. Enough. I'm tired of seeing you wallow in your despair. I turned my head away and rested on my paws. There's no way out. It's better for you just to accept it. Even the front door is gone, so instead of wasting time, you may as well follow me and keep yourself occupied. I wish I could cry. My ears lay flat against my skull. I've landed myself right in the mouth of a carnivorous flower with the sweetness of shelter to lure me in. I take a peek at Dove. She doesn't seem to have any problem with being a caged bird. How can anyone live like this? Her patience reaches its end as she slides off the kitchen table. Follow, Wolf. There is much to do. Clearly, since we can't get out of here. Now that I'm not frantically running through them, notice how much different the atmosphere of the manor is. The stool she stands on starts to sway and I tense. She makes her way to the broken side table I spotted when I first exploring the rooms of the mansion. Candles spike up like tops of stalagmites. There's so many I think would render a fire hazard if they were all to be lit. I can see the end of a fountain pen, as well as scraps of paper. A glint catches my attention. On the other side of the room, I'm unsettled by the mirrors that cover the wall from floor to ceiling. I swallow a lump that forms in my throat and not my eyes linger on him. I lay on the floor and watch her slather strongly scented glue in the broken leg of the table. She roughly connects the broken leg to the rest of the table and fans it with her hand so it dries faster. She tests its sturdiness with a light finger, then scrunches her nose when it wobbles. We're a good dog, Wolf. When she's done, she sets the table straight again. It still rocks unsteadily, but it stays standing. This seems to be good enough for Dove, because she picks her box again and gives it a nod. In the corner of the room, a long-haired ghost from earlier stands bent over a broken vase. I flinch when Dove lets out a startled noise and starts to stride towards it. I bark in alarm. She ignores me. I grab the back of her gown with my teeth to stop her. Dove's demeanor goes from angry to taken aback. Dove considers me for a moment, then switches her attention back to the ghost. You klutz. My jaw drops. I don't need another person to clean him up after. When Dove gets closer, she stumbles and cries out. The ghost snaps his head back up to her. It's concern for her? I observe the interaction befuddled. Everything I know about corrupted ghosts is being challenged. I pause to think about how the ghosts rushed to her side earlier. I studied them curiously. It wasn't because they wanted to cause her harm? Well, clearly she's cursed, so makes a little sense. We leave the ghost and Dove continues down whatever to-do list she has in her mind. While she paints over the scratches on the kitchen door, trying to match the old wallpaper, she speaks to me. Have you met all of them already? Hey there. She perks up to see what it's holding. Oh, thank you, Babel. She takes a small bundle of roses from it, freshly torn from its bush. I follow her to a window and see a tall, thin glass with withered roses sitting on the sill. Huh. A lot of graves. She stands at the end of the hall waiting for me. The bird-like ghost name is Grell, and the doll-like ghost name is Odette. Dove introduces them officially when we run into them. It's a sight I can't get used to. I can't understand how a young girl can act so normal around such monstrous beings. Well, I don't think she's a normal girl. Do you? She could tell they were there, waving their arms together to wrap her in a ghostly embrace, and she didn't care in the slightest. I start to think she's more disturbing than the ghosts. To become this corrupted, they would have had to stay trapped in this plane for a long time. Why are they still here? It has to be some time to hell. Dove walks among them like they're a family, though. No, that's not quite it. Maybe. The image of the grace flashed in my mind. It's because she is theirs. I watch her guide, Grell, gangly limp out of the hallway so she can pass through. A monster, just like them. Maybe this cage she lives in is of her own making. Dove does these errands like a routine. By the time she finishes winding up a large grandfather clock in the hallway, the manor feels like a different place. Huh. As we walk into Dove's room, the sun begins its descent into the blazing orange horizon. I wish I could see the sun. All I see is red, which is pretty bad. It's like letters left unfinished, or tea half empty and turning cold. There's this sense of stagnation that this manor is outside of time's reach. Dove stops abruptly and I almost trip over and pause, trying not to run into her. The very first ghost I had met stands at the end of the hall. Dove doesn't move. Then Dove speaks. It's okay. I'm not reassured in the slightest. She's harmless. She doesn't do anything. But watch. The ghost is right beside us. Its milky eyes look down at Dove and she holds its unseeing gaze with cold eyes. I don't breathe. Huh. I startle when Dove clenches her fist beside me. What is that ghost then? Is that like her mom? Dove's shoulders are squared as we return to her room. Since the sun set in the opposite direction of her window, the scattering of colors from the morning is long gone. The way she spoke of her almost seemed resentful. Give the caller one less glare than crawl up to the floor. I don't know if there's enough time in the world to process everything that's happened since I left home. Do you think people can come back from the dead? Yes, so quietly I almost don't hear her. I cannot give her one. Dove's roses. I wince at the bites. The roses are extra hungry today. It's been so long since I fed them that their petals bleached white. I watch as my blood saturates the colorless flowers, then narrows my eyes when I saw a pair of fungi at the base of the bush. Reach down and tear the terrible out. Its eyes are open. I press my fingers down to the lids of the dead wolf, but it's too late. Learn another pitiful golden eye.